Let's take a look at some of the individual movers of the day. The trending tickers. Our very own Allie Canal is here to help us break it all down. And guys, let's start with Ford. Ford under pressure all day after announcing price cuts to the Ford F-150 Lightning, their EV pickup that we know, at least initially, was saw some pretty strong demand. But Allie, when you take into account what they are doing here, they're joining the price wars that seem to be developing here within the EV space. Ford cutting the price of the F-150 Lightning by up to $10,000. So certainly some concern here reflected as we're looking at the stock move. But the cheapest version is still more expensive than it was when Ford initially debuted the F-150.
Still more expensive, but these cost cuts are pretty significant. And I do think the conversation in the back half of 2023 is how this price war, not only in the U.S., but also in China, is going to impact the margins of all of these companies. Tesla is another big EV company we talk about a lot on this show. Those earnings coming up later this week. And on the heels of this Ford news, we got the news that they are finally in production of their Cybertruck. They're another company that's been in the pricing wars. So I feel like all of these EV makers are going to really have to reassess their pricing, especially as EV adoption becomes more and more popular.
Yeah, and we're talking specifically about EV trucks, and that's becoming increasingly a crowded space. Yes, the price cuts did affect the stock, but Allie, to your point, it also collided with that news that came out of Tesla. Not entirely a surprise because we were expecting some kind of delivery event to happen later in the year. But now, as Pras pointed out earlier, we know they're likely to compete in a similar price point as the Ford F-150 Lightning. So that's going to set up an interesting competition, particularly in the EV truck space at a time when we're still asking, how significant is that demand going to be and what are drivers willing to shell out in that space? We're also watching shares of Palantir today. Mizuho out with an optimistic note on the company raising its price target, saying it is well positioned for the AI wave, but did leave its rating at neutral. And guys, AI wave, yes, that is the magical word, but Palantir really is one of those companies that is competing in that space. It is all about data for this company. No real surprise on that front that Mizuho sees a lot of optimism on the back end of that.
Yeah, the AI wave. Certainly all of these companies are benefiting from it. And it's interesting to think that Palantir was once a meme stock. Remember that back in the day? But again, I do think it's important that there was no upgrade to this stock. Still neutral. That being said, a pretty significant price target boost, $14 a share, up from the prior $8 a share, suggesting more upside here. But I do think analysts across the board are split according to Bloomberg data. We have 8 sells, 7 holds, 3 buys on this stock. And the analysts also saying that it's a bit too early to really know the impact of AI. And I think that's a story across the board here. AI is so new for a lot of these tech companies, these tech giants. How will they implement AI and how will they deploy the new technology is going to be important.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly the impact on their bottom lines. I think that's a big question out there for investors, for analysts at this point. And Allie, to your point there, the fact that they did not upgrade this stock. They stopped short of turning bullish on it. They were pointing to some of those valuation, concerns, but just the fact that the stock has nearly doubled in just the last 6 weeks ever since Palantir did disclose in that last earnings call their push into AI and how exactly as some of those AI tools, they see it better enhancing their business. So another stock here that has certainly run up after the mention of AI, but I think the pressure on now for these companies, like a name like Palantir, is what exactly it is going to turn into in terms of results here in the coming quarters.
And we're seeing a lot of overheated stocks in that tech sector as well. We're also watching telecom stocks under pressure today after AT&T was hit with yet another downgrade. And this story is crazy about the lead that was found in some of these cable cords, which is from the Wall Street Journal, did a whole investigative report on this. And there's quite a few risks here that a lot of these analysts are pointing to when it comes to legal action. How do we even resolve these lead cables? And we have JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs really coming out here and saying that this was not known to the market. Therefore, it's having this material impact on the stock price right now. That being said, though, I still think there are more questions than answers when it comes to the future of how to even resolve this. But we're looking at some serious lows, in some cases 30-year lows here for these telecommunication giants.
Yeah, we saw that in AT&T stock right now. And Citi, to your point there, Allie, saying that they expect this to remain an overhang for this stock like AT&T and its valuation for at least a few months, but potentially longer here because a lot of unknowns just exactly how long this is going to be and how big of a financial risk this is to AT&T. Verizon is another name too, Akiko, that's under pressure. They were downgraded to hold from buy at Edward Jones, who also cited those lead issues. So analysts kind of reassessing what the true valuations are for these stocks, at least today, given this financial risk that they're now seeing because of the lead issues.
Yeah, I mean, worth really noting what this Wall Street Journal investigation reveals. It's not just about lead in the cables. It is about the company knowingly continuing forward with that they knew the blood levels were very high, contained high levels of lead all the way back to the 60s and 70s. So to your point, Allie, I mean, this is a huge overhang, but also what is that next step? It feels like one of those stories that we have seen from other companies where it will continue on for years and years and years, could be a huge hit financially for AT&T, which is why we are seeing that stock take such a dive, and other companies in the space take a dive as well, because nobody really knows what this means in terms of lawsuits, other financial ramifications that could come as a result of this Wall Street Journal investigation.